Hey everyone, and welcome to the ODP Public Show and Tell for ODP products. My name is Celia and I'm part of the planning software team here at MHCLG. Just a heads up that this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on YouTube after the session. So other recordings and transcriptions are permitted, but for accessibility purposes only. And if you are using any transcription or recording software, please can you just make sure it's turned off at the end of the meeting and removed, because it can cause issues otherwise, and we'll need to remove it otherwise. So if you do not wish to be recorded, please feel free to switch your camera off. Okay, I'm actually just going to put that in the chat as well. Okay, so this is just a quick reminder about what it is that we're doing, why we're here, just in case anybody is new here. Today's session is just a chance to showcase the products and share what the teams have been working on, an opportunity to share progress and sort of celebrate the things that are going on and the impacts that we're having. So first of all on the agenda, we've got PlanX. So we're going to have a look at the 5-day notice, which is going to be demoed by Barnet Council. And then Camden are going to go through the pre-app service metrics. And then BOPS will be looking at the assessment service and demoing that. There'll also be a general update on the planning portal and an update on route to market. So I think initially I'm handing over to Jonathan Mills at Barnet Council.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is our demonstration of where we got to with the development of a 5-day notice for exempt works to trees protected by tree preservation orders or within a conservation area. Can I have the next slide? So the background for us in Barnet, we have over 700 tree preservation orders and 13 conservation areas, and including Hampstead Garden suburb, which is a very sort of internationally renowned area of London. That generates annually about between 700 to 800 tree work applications and Section 211 notices, which is the notifications for work to trees within a conservation area. In addition to that, within that number, we receive about 75-day notices for exempt works. So it's quite a high number for us. Nice. Next slide. And as part of that, our policy is that all our applications are either submitted through the planning portal or via the post, except for the 5-day notices, because a 5-day notice is to inform the local authority that they're doing works to trees under an exemption, and we have 5 days to either respond and accept the 5-day notice or object to the 5-day notice. Therefore, we need to be able to capture them. So they're sent to us directly via email. Can I have the next page? I think, yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah. And then, so as a result, sometimes we've missed some, which resulted in a complaint some last year, and our design team, Kevin Buckthorn and people said, why don't you look at PlanX? Medway had set out a design for PlanX, and so we sat down and looked at see whether we could use PlanX to avoid the overlooking the submission of these 5-day notices. So to start that, we sat down and designed why and what was we needed for this. So I used a thing called user journeys, and so I wrote out what the user for all the people who interfaced with the 5-day notices are. So I looked at the agents, what they wanted, what the tree owners might want, what the neighbours to the trees might want, what we wanted as tree officers. I'm the tree officer and I manage the service. Managers and our service directors and our tech support team that support all the admin. So we sort of guessed all that and set out those sort of things. And then we designed some workflows, and we included the our council's web design pages, who design all our web pages, and they came on board to support the design and the wording and all the sort of information around the 5-day notice process. And we've now got to a point where we're just about to go to testing with our main service users, which are the tree surgeons and agents that submit most of our 5-day notices. So I'm going to show you the 5-day notice that we've got. So shall I share my screen and we can run through it? Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the start of a pad, and it's probably similar to lots of things in there. And so put that through. And then it comes to this next sort of menu of things that we have to complete. And there we had this sort of explanation of what exempt tree works are, and briefly there. And our web design, we actually initially put in the whole description from the planning guidance, but our web page designer said, no, just keep it really nice and simple. But the link to the legislation is just here, and other information's there. And then there's further guidance coming on that we've got through. And again, it went through all the sort of plain English testing, and we've got links to further information, consultants, and things from there. And we've also given guidance on what information and evidence that we need. This was suggested by my colleague Terry Wong, who wanted the photographs there. So we have 3 photographs submitted to evidence the whether a tree is exempt or not. So I'll put in our postcode of where the tree is located. This is one I used earlier. So we like this, just a map showing the location of the property. It's helpful. And then it takes us to the mapping here. What would be really nice is that this is all the tree preservation orders, and it gives you links to the protected maps here, and then takes you to the main planning digital map there, and which is just here, and it takes you right to the property, which is good. I think if we go back a form, it would be really nice to have that information on this map here. Just something to think about. And then we have plotting the trees. So as part of the legislation, we need a plan showing where the tree is located. This is one of the protected trees, and so we can just put a spot on here, and it says tree 1, and then we can fill in the works here. It's a Wellingtonia, and then it tells you. Interestingly, it remembers from previous applications what you've put in, which I like. So that says where the tree is and everything. And then we can determine whether it's a tree preservation order or not, or it's in a conservation area. So as officers, we know which type of tree is being considered. So then we know what sort of exemption to make. And then that's the main bit of the form finished. And then there's about us. And then that auto fills really nicely. So I think that's good for everybody. And then you can describe who you are, as whether you're the tree owner, the agent, a neighbour, or somebody else. And then contact details. Then we'll just leave it as no. But if you do that contact, it just allows you to add more details, which is good, because often it will be the agent acting on behalf of the tree owner. and that's that form finished. And then the tree works. And then here we've got the list of the main exemptions under the Town and Country Planning Act for tree preservation orders, which is trees that's urgently, imminently dangerous, dead trees, dead branches, and to abate a nuisance. Just in here, we can do that. And then it asks us for more information, so we can just sort of fill in the form and go here, tree, rotten. Continue with that. And then it asks, and then here we can upload photographs to where the trees are. We show the trees. These are mandatory, and I've got some things. So this is the whole tree. So if we have the whole tree there, it asks us what the photograph's showing. So I can do that, and it uploads the document. Then we can do that one. Next one, you can choose. Goes up the whole crown, upper crown. Interestingly, it's not showing us these are PDF drawings. So it's probably not that interesting. I'll show you the pictures of, just so you can get to see what the tree actually looks like. So that's the tree from afar. So then as tree officers, we'll get to know that this is a tree, its context in the surroundings. This is the whole tree, the crown of a tree. And so you can see the sort of context there better, and then close-up image of the defect there. So that allows us as tree officers to immediately go, well, the tree's quite close to buildings, and we've got a detailed image here showing what could be a severe defect of lots of tree and decay. It isn't. So we'd then probably go, this isn't a 5-day tree qualifying for a 5-day notice. So it allows officers that. And then we can also choose an arboricultural report as well. And we can, if there's a report here, we can upload a tree report that's a detailed study of the said tree. Continue through that.
Just need to put in tree free, Jonathan. Just missed that
Tree
one.
free.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Good feedback.
Yeah. That one. Yeah. So it's mandatory. All these boxes have, these 3 boxes have to be ticked. And you can just upload one photograph and tick all the boxes, and you can move forward through the form, because sometimes it's just a picture of a dead tree and you only need one photograph. Okay, is that done? I think that's all of it.
Yep, it should be all right.
Yeah. Cool. And then it allows us to review and confirm the information, and that gives us a summary of the reports in here and there. What would be nice is that it showed here, it showed the actual site plan, showing the tree with the tree plot and everything. So then the applicants know that they've got that bit right. And then in here, perhaps even some thumbnails of the pictures, images, so you can just see that they've definitely been uploaded. And then continue. And then that's sent to us. Okay, that's the process that we've got to so far. We will be going out to test the process with our agents in the coming weeks and see what they think to it, and we'll pick up any changes and everything that's needed. Any questions?
Thanks, Jonathan. Do we have any questions for Jonathan? I think we've got a hand. Laura?
Hiya. Very quick question. Who did your kind of user journey mapping? Is it something you did in-house or?
We did it in-house with support of our tech support, Kevin, and others in the team.
And is it something, I guess, did you come together and kind of do that as a workshop situation?
Yeah,
we're really keen to do some of this ourselves.
With my team, we just sat down. I've got three tree officers, and we all just sat down and just imagined what agents and tree owners and what we all wanted out of this.
Is that something you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, I'll put it on the thing. I'll take it out and share it onto a document. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Sandy Twyman, Newcastle City Council. Just a quick question, Jonathan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. I know that you're an EasyTree user as well, just like we are at Newcastle. Does that information that's you're capturing there, does that flow nicely into EasyTree at this stage, or?
No, EasyTree and the planning they're not integrated in Barnet.
Right.
Our council, the tree officers look after green spaces, has EasyTree. We have uniform for our sins.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions for Jonathan? No? Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Very
I'll share. Can I upload our user journeys to this meeting? Is that the way to do it, or?
Possibly, we could possibly use the Slack channel for that. Are you in the Slack channel?
I can help out that, Celia. I'll help Jonathan.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've got Jono from Camden, who's going to be going through the pre-app service metrics.
Thank you, Celia. I'm going to share my screen. I've gone off piste and haven't used ODP templates for my presentation. Brilliant. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jono from Camden, and I'm going to give you a quick preview of Camden's pre-app service. So we're just showing you the impact of changes we rolled out this spring. So this included new offers, an updated web content, some officer templates, a new submission route via PlanX. That's been a pretty big shift for us, and the results are pretty encouraging, which I think you'll agree with. So since launching the updated service in April, we've seen a dramatic shift in how residents submit pre-apps. Previously, everything came in via email. We didn't have a submission portal for pre-apps. It was a bit chaotic, inconsistent, really hard to track our pre-apps and the information coming in. So since launching the PlanX submission service, 94% of homeowner and listed building pre-apps have come through PlanX, and this has given us much cleaner data, complete submissions, and a much better customer experience. So this is our piloting schedule. We started with householders on the ODP stack, moved on to lawful development certificates, and then pre-apps and report a breach. We're now in the process where we're doing all homeowner and listed building pre-apps in BOPS, and that's without dual processing. So officers are fully assessing their pre-apps now in BOPS. It's a few headline numbers. So since launching the PlanX service, we've also seen a 55% increase in the number of pre-apps in those categories, and that's compared to the same period this time last year. And it tells us that the new offers and the clearer categories are landing really well with applicants. Earlier this year, we carried out a pre-app review. So we actually were really lucky. We got some help from our corporate services team. So we had a full-on discovery and did some internal workshops, and we also helped coordinate a workshop with OSL last year, and we heard from other councils in ODP. So the feedback from other councils really helped our project too. And we did lots of user research with our own planning officers and residents and agents. And the outcome was the new PlanX submission service, which we designed a new flow, and we came up with an updated offer pricing schedule and resources for officers. So this work stream is really about giving customers a more predictable experience. It gives officers and residents better tools, and it allows us as a council to run a sustainable service. And that's everything from the new pricing model to the redesigned website pages to the PlanX submission pathway. At the start of our project, we came up with these objectives, and nothing here is groundbreaking. We just want a better service. We want cost recovery, Camden declared a climate emergency, so we have a free pre-app service through our climate fund. So residents who are doing energy efficiency upgrades to their home get pre-app for free from us. And of course, we want a better service and better customer experiences. So we designed the offer around things that residents most often struggle with. They don't always know what kind of pre-app they need or what advice they want. And it's the categories before are really confusing. So people didn't know what fees they had to pay and what kind of advice they needed. So I've made it really clear now, and it helps people make their decisions, and they can figure out within the PlanX flow what service they need as well. It automatically does that for them, because in the past I've had back and forth emails from customers who don't understand what fee they have to pay and what service they need. So it's really streamlined things for us. We designed a new service model, and there's quite a lot on the slide, sorry, but I can share the slide deck later, and you can have a look at our model and how things flow through the system. Just to underline the numbers, so from April to the end of September, we received 99 pre-apps in the homeowner and this is building categories. 93 of these came through PlanX. The other 6 would have been emails, because that's how we used to accept them. So probably some legacy agents were submitting in that way. And basically, we've had the big ones have been the faster determinations and increased uptake and improved income, and that's all by also reducing officer time, which in the past, when we receive the email submissions, has been quite tricky figuring out the fees and making sure we've got all the documents, which PlanX does all for us. So the trajectory we've experienced this year, we're expecting the forecast to be very positive. We're expecting the service to keep growing. We'll obviously have more operational efficiencies, and officers and residents will get more comfortable with the tools. And obviously once BOPS has bedded in, we're quite confident that our pre-app service will be even better. The next steps for us, we want to understand whether the improvements at pre-app flow on to the application stage. So do we get faster validations and better outcomes at planning? On our roadmap next year, we want to redesign our website essentially, and we know Doncaster and others have done really good work with the PlanX inquiry service. So we want to, off the back of that good work, we want to take that even further and fully revamp our website, and PlanX will play a part of that as well. And next year, also on our roadmap, we are going to scale what we learned this year from homeowner pre-apps, and we're going to tackle major pre-apps and PPAs. And we're looking at a rounded PPA service, which will take you from early pre-app until the development's built, so post-approval as well. So we're going to really look at improving that side of the service too. And ultimately, this is about creating a planning service that's easier to use, quicker to process, and smarter, and how it improves over time. And we know we're just beginning, of course. We'll continue to iterate, and that's a quick snapshot of where we are. The transformation at pre-app stage is already making the rest of the planning journey much smoother, and we're building on this work as we head into majors and PPAs next year. And if anyone wants to dig into the detail, swap notes, or talk about PlanX workflows, I'm always around. And we've also I've shared previously with ODP and the Slack channels all the internal workshops and all the outcome of our project. So I can share that again for anyone else who's interested. Thank you.
Great, thanks, John. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, so next on the agenda, we've got a demo from BOPS and the assessment service. I think I'm handing over to Ed for this.
Okay, good morning. I don't know if it's me or if we're going to first start with a little bit of background from our design team and devs. If we're not, I'll just carry on. If
I think it's straight over to you, Ed.
Oh, I'm in the hot seat. Excellent. We're skipping the early bit. Excellent stuff. Right, but I won't waste time. I'll jump straight in with the demo. So for those who don't know me, I'm Ed. I work at Buckinghamshire Council. I've been involved in the ODP project, particularly BOPS, as a PO for coming up 4 years, I think now. So I've been on the journey for quite a while. I will start with sharing the existing journey that we have in BOPS. So this was originally designed for lawful development certificates only. And what we found is, as the services have grown and the requirements have grown, the old design just really wasn't suitable. So this is the assessment part we're going to look at. So we have a list of things that need to be done for assessment. You have to scroll down to get to those things. So if I start, every time I click into a new one, I have to scroll down again and make those selections, and then I would save and mark as complete, and it would bring me back, and I'd have to scroll down again. So you can see that the existing journey was very repetitive, a lot of clicking, a lot of changing screens, a lot of scrolling to complete those tasks. So what we have done is redesigned this for pre-application, which is now a standalone service. So if you wanted to run the pre-application service in conjunction with PlanX, submissions will automatically load into the system, and there's no email or manual transition, copying and pasting to get cases into the pre-application service. And then when we come in, we have this dedicated pre-application. It will list all of the pre-apps for the officer who's logged in, and you can find your application. So in this case, this is progressed through and we are at the assessment stage. So when we enter the assessment stage, we get onto the landing page. And as you can see, what we've done is, instead of having this big long scrolling list here, when you click into the first section of assessment, so check application details, we move into this left-hand menu bar, which shows all of the tasks that need to be completed. It also gives you a clear status. So if it's a blank box, it's not started. If we've got a tick in there, it's been completed. And if we've got this arrow, it means it's been started but not finished. So we're trying to give clear guidance as to where we're at in that process and what needs finishing. So you can see that the actual content is the same. And we removed all of that header that you need to scroll through to get to that content. Now that header contained a lot of information about the application. So what we've done is we've now got an application information link, and that opens up in a new tab. So if you're a dual screen user, you can move that to a separate screen, and then you've kind of got all of the details of that application to hand. And it has everything. So it's got all the details of the site and the applicant, all that kind of stuff. But then we've also got our documents. So we can see, we click into documents. BOPS doesn't use a document management system that's separate. It is all integrated. So the documents are saved within BOPS and are available per case. So you don't have to log into a separate system for those. And as you can see the thumbnails for each one, and you can also click in and see more details. We've also got constraints in here, the map that shows those constraints on our site, consultees, and site history. So that's all in this application information, and then we can get on with our assessment. So it takes us through asking questions about the details. We can say, yes, we're happy with all of that. The site location's correct, and we can save and mark as complete. So then we can work through all of these. Some of these I've completed earlier. True Blue Peters up. So we can go on to the next one, site visit. We're able to add multiple site visits. So if we wanted to add another visit, we can. We're also able to upload files to this, so we can add our site visit photos. You are also able to log on to this on a mobile device. So if you're on site or you have photos on a mobile device, you can log on to BOPS and upload them from there. And then you can add some comments about your site visit as well. So we can add that visit and save and mark as complete. Now, as we're working our way through all of these tasks, in the background, our report is beginning to get constructed. So BOPS is a digital system, so we don't have a PDF output at the end for our customers. They get sent a web version of this report, which they can access through a link in an email, which is a secure link. But we get the option of being able to preview our report as we're building it. This preview is exactly the same as our customers will see. So we as an officer, you will know exactly what they're going to get and how it's going to look. You get links so you can jump to certain parts of the content from the top. But as you populate that assessment page, the information begins to populate into their reports. They get a site map. They'll have the relevant constraints, the site history, planning considerations and advice all begins to pull through. So you can see it's broken down into different elements, and the summary as well. So as we add to this report, it will begin to build out. So we could add a site description. Will then appear on that report preview. So got to remember where the site description sits, site and surroundings. There we go. So you can see I've added that, and it's straight away you can preview it on that report as it's developing. We have got a feature suggested heads to terms, so if you're dealing with larger pre-apps, you are able to add in these items, and you can add as many as you want. And then as you begin to come to the completion of that assessment, we can choose the application type we would want the applicant to submit. So in here, you've got a full list. You can also search by typing in this list of all the different application types. So in this case, we're going to say it needs a major application due to the size of the scheme. And then we'll move on to requirements. So because I've selected the major application, within BOPS, you can set the criteria of documents that you would require for that application type, and that automatically adds in all of the requirements. So it could be things like design access statement, heritage statements, whatever is relevant, it can add. We also have the option of adding our additional requirements to that. And then we have the review and submit. So that will then, you can submit your application and it will go off for officer sign off before it's sent to the applicant. But if we jump back into the preview, we can see now that all of the information we've populated generates into this digital report relating to it. It also adds, because we've got references to policies, it will add those references here. And again, BOPS has been built so all of the links and information can be accessed on the council's website by the applicant for those things. So that is the end of my demo. I think I've covered everything in that.
Great, thank you very much, Ed. I think Laura is going to share the slides, and I'll give a very quick planning portal update before handing over to Laura. Fantastic, thank you very much. So yeah, this is just a very quick update, yeah, as we've been talking about for a little bit of time, we're interested in sort of broadening the range of options people have when they're submitting applications into BOPS. So there's been some integration work ongoing with Planning Portal, and I can say that we've successfully received cases from Planning Portal into BOPS. We have been testing those, and you can fully process the applications. There's a few sort of updates or tweaks we need to do to BOPS, and there's a few sort of things for Planning Portal to sort of work on to make sure that we get that really smooth and working well. But yeah, that seems to be sort of things that we can do in a relatively quick turnaround. And from the BOPS side, we're just preparing. So we've been doing our testing in what we call our staging environment. So that's where we can use test data. We're not publishing anything. We're not making anything. We're not using any real data. But we are now prepared for production integration, which will mean the services that you would use if you were running a real live service we're all set up and ready to go for that in the near future. So big thank you to Greg at Lambeth, who's been doing lots of work to get this to happen. I'm just sort of here taking the glory for it, but yeah, hopefully will be more news and more updates on that in the near future. Laura, I will hand over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Smith. I'm one of the designers at Unboxed. I'm just going to give a very brief update on the work we've been doing on a vision for planning performance agreements in BOPS. This is part of what we call the route to market project. So thinking about some more strategic things around what's going to support procurement and adoption of BOPS. In a previous show and tell, I shared some insights from the discovery research we did on PPAs. And since then, we've done some work to explore ideas and prototype some key features. Before I go into that, I just want to say a big thanks to Anthony and David in Salford, Jono in Camden, and Becky in South Gloucestershire for their time and input into this work so far. So firstly, a vision. I think these are summarised in a couple of quotes that I'm going to share here. First of all, from a planning consultant from a major consultancy, the biggest transformative aspect for me and my clients would be working as a single team with the council. And then from a council, I'd like a PPA service that everyone can participate in with flexibility for changes, where everyone knows what's needed and what's needed next. So that shared working and shared accountability and visibility has come out as a real driving factor for a PPA service. So just briefly, for those that didn't see it, these are some key themes that came out of the discovery research we did. So firstly, standardization, so having more consistent tools and templates. So for the applicant, having more consistency across councils, and then for officers, having more consistency over how PPAs are managed within the planning team. Secondly, automation. So looking at automation of administrative tasks like creating a fee schedule, generating the PPA structure, adding meeting notes, or summarizing advice. And then the really big one was around visibility. So having more visibility over timelines, upcoming tasks, blockers, things that were causing delays, and being able to see who needed to do what, which really leads to more transparent communication, more accountability. So we had a planning consultant say, it'd be really useful if I could say to my client, look, our determination date has shifted because we didn't provide this document on time, and we can all see that. There's nowhere to kind of hide behind and say that you know, start blaming each other around who was causing a delay. And finally, flexibility. So moving beyond this sort of static signed off document to more of a conversation. I think it's useless. Oh, sorry, I'm just hearing some noise from somebody. So moving to more of a conversation where the scope of the PPA can evolve with the proposal. So we've heard that we know that when the applicant first contacts the council, they might have, you know, just an idea of what their scheme is. Obviously, as that scheme develops, the PPA needs to develop with it. We heard cases where the PPA document wasn't signed off, and actually they were halfway through the process before it was signed off, so it kind of became redundant. So trying to make much more use of the PPA document, for want of a better word, as more of a framework that drives that kind of conversation. So I'll talk through a bit of our process. So taking the insights from that discovery, we mapped out some sort of high-level needs for both applicants and councils, and we created this future state service map that captures the key interactions between both parties, and then thinking about what the system or systems need to do to support those interactions. So they might be within BOPS, they might be within a submission service, they might be within a calendar service. There's lots of different systems we might look at to enable the PPA. So this service map really was around prompting a discussion around these kind of key activities that would enable single team working. I'm not going to share it now because it's quite big, but if anyone wants to see it, the link is here, and I'll share links in Slack later on. So we took that to a co-design session. We had 3 representatives from councils, we had a planning consultant, and then we had myself and Ed from BOPS in that session together. So as I said, we really focused on what could enable that single team working with shared visibility and accountability. We went through that service map and we picked out the key features or the key interactions that would really make a difference to how the both parties work together. So these themes were creating a PPA, so pulling the structure of the PPA together, viewing and managing upcoming events being meetings or submission of documents or other events that happen within the PPA. Flexibility to make changes and evolve the PPA, but having an audit trail that everyone can see. And then thinking about what happens when the PPA ends. So just to give you an idea of some of the ideas that came out of sketching, the first one you can see there, we had a lot of thinking around this sort of simple PPA builder that would make it easy for applicants to select the services they think they need and see the fees associated with that, but also for the case officer to suggest other services and then build these into the structure of the PPA agreement. So we know that people don't always know what they need when they come in for a PPA. We know that they are bespoke, so you can't necessarily have a very set schedule. But this kind of builder allows people to build it up together and both parties can see it and agree on it within the system. The second sketch there is something that was very popular, a sort of dynamic timeline that could show what's coming up next, so what deadlines are coming up, as well as highlight key blockers or dependencies. So we know, for example, that a certain document may need to be submitted 10 days before a meeting, so the case officer has a chance to review it, or invite the relevant people to the meeting. So a timeline that would be able to show people what's coming up and what happens if you change something or if you delay something, what does that do to the next steps within that timeline? The sketch at the top there is just around audit. So we talked a bit about how it would be useful to have an audit function that allows councils to review performance against agreed milestones in order to both report on that performance, but ultimately to improve their customer service. And then finally, the sketch at the bottom, we talked about how we could use constraints data to help identify relevant PPA services at the request stage. So we're already able to use a map to draw out constraints data within BOPS, and we wanted to see whether this could help just automate that kind of PPA builder at the beginning. So from this sketching, we then prioritized some key features. We took those away and created some very quick prototypes. I'm going to show you just one of them now. I'm not going to go through all 4, but if you'd like to see the others, I can share these links to some demo videos we've made, or feel free to message me on Slack or send me an email if you want to chat or you want to see anything. So I should say these prototypes at the moment don't look, they're not built in the BOPS or the GDS design system. They're very much about a vision to explore what we could do, and there's still a lot of work to do to understand how these would work in practice and how we could integrate with other tools, but they're a really great prompt for discussion. So I'm just going to jump over to the prototype. I hope everyone can see that. Just shout if you can't, because I cannot see you. So we decided to prototype feature by feature rather than trying to build a prototype that addresses all of those things. So one of the key features we looked at was this idea of a timeline, a sort of dynamic timeline. So we were looking at a timeline that highlights key things that are causing blockages. So these alerts at the top saying that transport assessment submission is delayed. I should say, for any planners in the room, the content in here is possibly wrong and in the wrong order. That's not what we're looking at now, but if you spot things and think that wouldn't happen in that order, that's something we'll work on. So you can see a timeline. You can also have a look at that in a horizontal view. One of the things we talked about was being able to go backwards in the timeline and see past things. Within each of these events, we can see sort of dependencies. So for example, here it's due 15 days before. We can open up that event and then have a look at it. So we talked about how many details would you want to add here. We don't want to create loads of work for case officers to have to add in loads of details. So this was just a starter for 10 really. We thought MVP would be just adding an agenda, saying what that meeting's about, so everyone knows who needs to be there. We could expose relevant documents at this point, or add documents that are relevant to that meeting. And we talked about adding meeting notes, because we know this is something at the moment case officers do quite differently. Some keep meeting notes in their own kind of personal notes tool. They're not always easy to share with colleagues or share with the applicant. So we talked about whether we could use AI services like Copilot to just pull meetings in and then be able to expose those somewhere else within the service. Yeah, so that's broadly it. The other thing that sits in here is this little analyze risks tool. It's not great at the moment, but the idea is what it does is look at any kind of dependencies within that timeline. So if we want to make a change, it's going to tell us what kind of risks that would bring up. It's generating a lot of content at the moment, and this could probably be boiled down to quite a short alert. But what it's telling me here is an immediate risk, because the traffic survey data for the transport system assessment is, we can't gather that at the moment because of some building works. And that's a critical path item. So this content's all generated by the tool I've been using. We could put that in plain English and basically say this delay's happening. So we need to think about what that means for the timeline. So that is it from me. If anyone has any questions, feel free to give me a shout.
Great, thanks, Laura. Do we have any questions from anyone? No? Checking there's nothing in the chat. Okay, right. So massive thank you to everyone for presenting and sharing updates. The next public show and tell will be the 28th of January. The next one I think falls over the festive period, so we'll cancel that one. So yeah, thanks everyone, and we will see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, bye.
Yeah.